So I'm Ariana Papazian. I'm the author of Delia, a survivor story, and I'm a grade 12 student here at Collège Notre-Dame de Nazareth. Delia is my mother. I put the title as Delia in honor of my mother. And a survivor story, I am the survivor, my brother, my best friend and I. And the inspiration actually from this book, it came in September 2020, a month after the explosion happened. Actually, since I was a little girl, I always used to write in my journal, write down my day-to-day experiences, because I felt like no one quite understood what I was feeling, or like I wanted to share my thoughts on paper. And so after the explosion, I thought to myself, why not make something out of my story? Why not let the world share my story with me and let people into my experience? So this is when I started writing on my laptop. I jotted down all my feelings, my thoughts, my experience, and then I structured it in a way for the reader to feel kind of included in the story. I wanted the reader to feel what I felt, like in a certain way, and to imagine in his head like the scenes, what happened, to understand what I went through. So the book starts by me introducing a bit like the situation in Lebanon for the people outside of Lebanon who are going to read the book to understand what we're like, where we are living. We live obviously in a corrupt country. I don't believe that there is a future anymore in Lebanon. Like we always kept on hoping for more, but after the explosion, that was the stop for me. Like I saw my life turned upside down. I saw my world fading away, disappearing. My mother passed away. I lost my home. I lost like a part of my family. I lost a person who, like the most precious person to me. And it's not easy waking up every day and seeing tears on my father's, in my father's eyes and on my grandmother's face, or seeing confusion in my brother's eyes, me feeling the emptiness. The absence of my mother every day, it's not easy. So like all this torture, me being oppressed by the government, this harsh treatment that I'm receiving every day, I'm doomed to live this way for the rest of my life. And they tore up my family, they tore myself apart, they tore me apart. So this is where I said stop, like this has to come to an end. And this is why I wrote the book. I shared my experience, what happened on the day, on the 4th of August in detail. We were in my grandmother's house, how we came back home around 4 p.m., what I did with my best friend, what my brother was doing with my mother, doing some homework, living a normal life. And then around 5 p.m. noticing that there is the fire, going out, seeing the neighbors, they would like the panic, the confusion. But the most important part is in this experience, in that moment, was that we didn't think that it was dangerous. We were so used to seeing bombs and wars and constant conflicts within the government and within the Lebanese people that it was very normal. We didn't do anything about it. We didn't think about running, about escaping, going out of the house, seeking help, nothing at all. We continued our life as if nothing was happening. And so I think that was the mistake that happened. I wish that we didn't take everything this normally, but it's our country, our government that led us to this like mindset. This is what they led us to. And so indirectly, they are not only responsible for the explosion, but they are also responsible for us not being cautious enough to take action and to save ourselves from this explosion. I think that each person lived the experience in a different way. I mean, I got the direct effect. There are some people who were outside of Beirut who maybe had the material damages, and others who were outside the country and they didn't experience it. So I think if the person wasn't in the situation where I was, didn't get affected personally, they are more likely to forget about the experience. And I think this is where also we are lacking consciousness about the subject. We are lacking awareness. People are not aware of what is happening. They just continue on with their lives. Not only the people, the Lebanese people, but the government as well. Like we are seeing them living their lives as if nothing happened, not doing anything about it, acting recklessly, and not taking action. And so I don't believe that change is going to happen. Justice is not going to be brought unless people take action every day. They speak about it every day. They stand up for what is right. So this is not happening right now. I don't think that someone living in Europe, in France, for example, if they were in the same situation as me, they wouldn't have, for example, hid in a corner or got out of the house, took the car and just escaped. But this was not the case. This was not our case. We were just standing in front of the window, and my mother, being a very like a cautious person and a person who was constantly afraid of anything that could happen in Lebanon, she didn't act, she didn't react to what was happening. We saw the fire, we saw the red smoke, we saw like people going out of their cars and taking picture of what is happening. We witnessed it with our own eyes. We went out on my neighbor's balcony and we saw that, we saw the scene, but still we didn't do anything. And my mother actually sent a text message, like a picture of the smoke, the scene, to my father. And my father, being an even more cautious person, didn't answer. Like, he didn't say escape, run away, do something about it. And something else happened as well. My best friend, while we were walking from my parents' bedroom, where we were watching the scene, towards the living room, my best friend was behind me and she constantly kept on repeating, Ariana, something is going to happen, something is going to explode. And I kept on ignoring it. I was telling her, no, don't worry, nothing is going to happen. And here we are. I mean, we didn't do anything about it, and the consequences were tragic. I think because it became so normal for the country that people ignored it. They just put it behind them. They were like, okay, we're going to continue on living. It's okay, it passed. We have to continue on. But I believe that after 15 years, who is going to promise us that nothing is going to happen, nothing similar to this or even worse? But we are so used to danger and we are so used to getting our lives torn apart that everything is becoming normal. We are normalizing everything and putting it behind us and just continue on with our lives.
Do you think justice has been served since the port explosion?
Of course not, because personally, if justice was served, I would have found some sort of closure to what happened, but this is not the case. And I believe that everything starts with the people. If the people are going to ignore the subject, what do we expect from the government? What do we expect from the judicial system? Like, the judges themselves, they have the same mindset as we do. They live in the same circumstances as we do, in the same way. And if we are ignoring the subject, then they are going to ignore the subject. And this is, therefore, we have a corrupt judicial system, we have a corrupt government. And so if we're going to continue on this way, there's no justice to be served, none. We find pride and joy in the fact that Lebanon is kind of a humanitarian country. They are part of the UN, and we have a lot of NGOs, but when we look at the country as it is, there is nothing like happening. Like, the people are not speaking up. There are still people who are victims, and they still remain silent. They are afraid of the government. They are afraid of I don't know, like they feel some sort of threat from the outside, and this is why like they know they are not being treated as humans like other countries like are treated, and they still shut up about it. They don't talk about it. They remain silent. So I think that this is very wrong, and they should protest. We try protesting, but no one is answering. There are a lot of NGOs who are acting up, they are talking about it, they are putting it on their platforms, on social media, sharing it with the world. But I truly believe that if an outsider outside of the country doesn't come and does an intervention in the case of the explosion, I don't believe that a change is going to happen. Yeah. I tried remaining silent. I wasn't understanding what was happening because of all the trauma and the shock that I lived. But then, day by day, when I was seeing our government on the television smiling and keeping on giving us promises, and when I see that people are still hoping for this government to do something, us in the family, we're kind of introverts. We don't talk about what we feel and what we think. So when I see my brother confused, and when I see my father getting angry every day and wanting to leave the country and being so disturbed by every moment that he's living, and when we started school after the pandemic, I had to pass by the port every day. I wasn't coming down to Beirut that often, but when school started, I was obliged to. So seeing that scene every day and seeing my mother's picture on social media, people like making up stories about it, people like not telling the actual story, I got angry. My anger increased day by day, and this is why I decided to write a book, because I truly believe that words stay forever. Since I'm a kid, I've always been passionate about writing. I've always been passionate about reading, and I realized that through the years, the stories stayed in my head. So I used the same concept, and I wrote the book for people to keep the story in mind and never forget about it. Actually, what the message is through this book, the message that I'm trying to send is for people to speak up. Like, this is the main message that I'm trying to send out. Like, speak up, don't be afraid to share your story, because people are actually inspired by the story. I didn't notice that until I published the book. Like, when I saw the feedbacks and the comments I got from people, like 2-3 days ago, after I published the book, there are people who finished the book overnight. They couldn't let the book down. It's because they are relating to what is happening. Like, they are not conscious of the danger they are living in, because they weren't affected personally maybe, but when they read the book and they imagine the situation in their head, they get kind of familiar with the emotions that I felt, with the scenes that I lived through, the experience that I went through. So I think this is what the book truly needs to send out to people.
Why are you not afraid?
I can't say that I'm not afraid. I am afraid because of the history that we have in the country. We say that we have liberty of speech, but we kind of don't, because we cannot talk about everything freely as we wish, because if we could speak freely, we would have had a change in the government, which is not the case. So I think that the book is like a way to keep the story alive forever. Like, even if 20 years on from now, there is going to be a change in the government, people can read the book and do a change thanks to the book. I personally think that for years and years we blamed the government, but because there is no response from their behalf, we need to blame someone, and we started reflecting it on ourselves, putting the blame on ourselves in order to justify what happened. Like, we need a reason for what happened, and because I'm not finding closure to what happened, and when I blame the government is not answering to this blame. They're not taking action, they're not taking responsibility to what they're doing. There is lack of responsibility and recklessness on their behalf. This is why I find myself to be the only person to blame. Now, this has decreased with time. I mean, through this book, it was a way to heal from this blame that I was putting on myself, but there is always that question in my head, like, what if I had done something else? What if I had taken one step behind? What if I was more cautious? What if I listened to my best friend and I took my mother and we hid somewhere inside the house? But since my brother and my mother and I, the three of us, didn't do anything about it, and even my best friend, she didn't insist on the fact that we should have done something. So I think that because it was very normal for the four of us, this blame kind of calmed down. But still, because we don't have anyone to justify, we don't have anyone to blame for what happened, we don't know who did it, so we find ourselves to be like an anchor, a source of blame. The government needs to let the judges or the judicial system do their work, where they should let someone from the outside intervene in the case of the explosion and do something about it. When I truly see, if I really see a judge who is working by the book and not turning right and left and in a corrupt way, trying to turn the story, hiding evidence, trying to change the story and blaming someone who wasn't actually responsible for the explosion, this is when I will feel like there is truly justice, there is truly change. Because if we speak and we publish books and we may do interviews and we do articles about what happened, but if we do that and still the main person who needs to do the change, which is the judicial system in Lebanon, is not doing anything about it, there's no meaning in what they're doing. They need to listen to us, they need to hear us out, they need to understand us, what we are going through. Maybe they didn't go through what we went through, but they need to feel kind of human. They are human at the end of the day. Don't they feel the guilt? Don't they feel like they're doing something wrong? They are oppressing people, they are treating them in such a cruel way. It's not human, like what they're doing is not human at all. So as long as I don't see a person from the government or a person from among the judges or like the judicial system doing something about it, I won't feel like change is happening. Like I won't find closure about it. In my personal experience, it started with confusion. Then it turned into denial, and I still don't know if I'm in denial or not, because I act really normal about what happened. I'm not like devastated, torn apart. Like I don't feel that. So I think that the trauma, it kind of like froze my emotions, like got me out of reality and put me like in a bubble that I can't pop myself. So, and then it turns into anger, and then maybe it turns into grief and sadness. While I was at first in the confusion, I was in the denial, it turned into anger. So I think that the fear and the anger together led me to push me to write the book, and it empowered me while writing my story and while seeing people interacting with me and giving me positive feedbacks about the book, like telling me bravo, like good work, you did a very good thing while publishing the book. It makes me feel a bit more confident about myself. Like I feel the difference between before publishing my book and now. Before I used to hide. I didn't used to talk to people about the subject. I used to ignore it, change the subject, because I thought that it would make people feel bad. I didn't want for people to like feel bad about themselves, feel like they should advise me, they should be there for me. I didn't want them to feel pity towards me. But now that people are interacting with me, I don't feel like it's pity. I feel like they are supporting me, like they are in this with me. And it has truly empowered me. Like this experience truly made me feel in a different way. Well, I think that teenagers in Lebanon at this point became adults. Like in the situation we are living in, pushed us to be mature. Like we can't be indecisive, we can't be reckless, we cannot live our lives like other people do. For example, we see on movies, like American movies, but teenagers going out and having summer vacations and like traveling and all of that. But we don't have that opportunity. We are we are treated so harshly that we think that no, we have to step up, we need to be mature, we need to support our families, we need to make a change, when it's not our role. It's clearly not our place to do that, but we are obliged to do it. Talking about the positive side, I always had a dream of publishing a book. Like a week before the explosion happened, I had a discussion with my mother and we were talking, I started writing a book, a science fiction book about space and all of that. So after it happened, I thought to myself, no, let me put that story aside and write something like legitimate, like my story. I need to publish it. It has always been my dream to publish a book, and this is maybe the opportunity to do it. So I feel like my mother gave me that chance, gave me that opportunity. It was the gift that she offered me before her, after her passing. So yeah, this is like one of the positive, if we're gonna put it that way. I hope that the story will be shared like worldwide on a larger scale. Like I got it outside of me, it was inside me, I shared it, and now I want it to be shared on a larger scale. And as I said before, I want them to speak up, even like to talk, to share their thoughts, because I was always like a positive person. I used to sugarcoat everything, but this book allowed me to put myself in reality, like it's real. I need to wake up, I need to do something about it. So I feel like most of the Lebanese people, they see, for example, the one or two positive things about Lebanon, the food, the touristic attraction, but they don't find themselves in the reality and what Lebanon really is. So because they are still in that fantasized world, not in reality, they are not acting, they are ignoring the subject. So I truly encourage people to read the book, and maybe they wouldn't be able to feel what I felt or live what I lived, but I want this to be like a push for them to step into reality and take action for what happened, because it's really not acceptable what is happening right now.
Of course.